welcome back to another episode of The Pretty, the Beard and the Bold. I am joined, as always, by the super amazing and talented two chaps that you can see. Mr. Genuineparts, hello.
Hello.
And Mr. FG Zilla.
How's it going, people?
So, today, what are we talking about? First things that I wanted to talk about was the concept of eSports and how do we see this fitting into the world? I know ESPN have been showing the what's it freaking called? The Dota 2 World
Tournament.
International.
Yeah, international. Sorry. See,
Yep.
you know that you can tell that this is a topic I don't know a lot about, but I'm quite interested in it. You know, so key questions: can it be considered a sport if you're if you play video games professionally? Are you an athlete? How do we define, what is considered a competitive sport? Ideas, thoughts.
GP, do you want to lead on this one?
Okay. From what I'm saying, there's a lot of discussion what is sport. As every time when we talk about the topic that could be seen from two angles, but I know Teeggie, you watch Formula One.
Mm-hmm.
So are Formula One pilots athletes?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you have to have a certain level of fitness to be a Formula One driver.
That's
Those
true.
guys train and train and train.
That's true. And could be competitive chess be considered a sport?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
so.
So, in my opinion, that answers if esports can be sports, because if you think about competitive chess, and I know this is really a thing, so those guys play a board game competitive that involves a lot of strategy, that involves a lot of thinking, and sometimes just surprising your enemy or your partner in playing. And so I think, yes, esports can be sports as in not an athlete way, because you don't need to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger to play.
You can do if you want.
Dota. You can, absolutely. It's absolutely recommended that you get a workout aside from playing games. But
I beg to differ. I have a different opinion on that. I don't think that playing video games competitively is a sport. I think the issue we have here is when we say, it's not a sport, it seems like we're actually devaluing it. I think that's the problem. So I put it in the same sort of category as something like darts or snooker or chess, in that you're playing a game and that game requires an enormous amount of skill to be at, a world-class player at. Absolutely. But it's not inherently a sport for that reason that it lacks the physicality that perhaps I would suggest a sport requires.
But things like snooker and darts are regularly shown on Sky Sports, a sports channel. I think they would actually be defined as a sport. Is there a difference between a physical sport and...
Well, I think actually, darts certainly seems to be something that people, and snooker to a degree, having known a few professional snooker players, certainly, they get a little bit angry when you call it a sport. They prefer it to be called a game. It's a game, and it's a game of skill, and it's a game of an exceptionally difficult game of skill to play at a high level. But I think that whilst it's not semantics, I think that the problem we have is that there's these kind of value-laden terms that in our society we have this massive sort of respect and admiration for superstar sportsmen. That if you are a high-level professional sportsman, that carries an enormous amount of weight in our society. You're kind of regarded as some sort of superhuman being, is held in very high esteem across the whole society. Whereas if you're exceptionally good at a game, it doesn't seem to carry that same sort of weight. No. So we're almost porting across this. We want people to take these people seriously. We want people who are really good at Dota or Call of Duty to be marketable in the same way. So rather than call them gamers, professional gamers, we're going to call them professional sportsmen. And I think that undervalues it. I mean, it's kind of fits into this context of gaming's constant need to be respected and recognized as a real endeavor and something that requires a great deal of skill. To kind of say that we can claim that if we're sports people I think is actually selling us short to some degree. I think we can be taken seriously as gamers, and that it should be sold as a game, as people who are brilliant at a game.
So kind of we
rather
should be
than people
selling
who are sports
ourselves
people.
for what we are, not just trying to tag onto a bandwagon of something else.
Exactly, exactly. And I think there's enough difference between what people are doing when they're playing Call of Duty or playing Dota really, really well, versus what someone's doing when they're playing football or soccer, as we like to call it over here, really, really well. I mean, I think they're two different sort of activities, very different activities, but both require an enormous amount of skill, and they should stand on their own 2 feet, so to speak.
Well, this kind of leads me into my next point about this then. Do we think that competitive video gaming can ever be a mainstream event, such as football or rugby, things like that?
I just wanted to tack on quickly to
sorry.
what FG said of us selling us short as gamers, as sport. I think it's not the gamers that try to sell themselves short. I think it's the marketing around it wants to be accessible to the public. And the public, when they think gamers, they think, well, it's a pickly-faced teenager playing a game. Why should I watch this? If you brand it as sport, I guess it just makes people more interested. I don't think it's a thing that we devalue as. I think it's just, if you want to be accessible to today's generations, where a lot of generations are mixed, where video games weren't a thing yet, I think we have to make some compromises in terming and coining terms. So, sorry.
That's okay. I mean, that's kind of similar to what I was sort of saying about becoming, competitive video gaming be mainstream, and that comes down to marketing a little bit, I guess. But I think the biggest problem I see with that is, something like football, or soccer, I don't know what you guys call it, sorry, is, it's quite simple. You can see that on the screen and you can work it out. He's got to get the goal that way, he's got to go that way. But if I watched a Dota 2 championship, I'd probably be sat there for half an hour going, what is going on? And there's no easy way to get into it. So
you have the commentators explaining stuff, because if I'm absolutely honest, there is, I don't know how it's called in English. In German it's abseits.
Offside.
Offside, probably.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which I don't understand. I have no idea what that means.
No one. I know nobody who understands offside.
Teegie understands it. She's the only one.
I used to play hockey, so it's like it was the same rule in hockey.
Yeah.
So if there, I don't understand that, and that's absolutely a vital part of the game. So I'm always thankful if the commentator says, "Well, that was offside," because I don't know what it is, but I know it's against the rules, and they have to start over. So
yeah,
I think.
Well, I mean,
it's the commentator.
Yeah, but that's exactly right. I mean, I defy either of you to understand the scoring on Australian rules football. If I was to say, the game was 10-16-76, without a commentator, anyone standing on the outside is not going to understand that. I mean, for me, I understand it because I've been, indoctrinated with it in Australia since the moment I was born. Exactly right. And so it's just second nature. Even though I don't actually follow the sport, I understand it. And the same thing goes with any sport, really. I think an outsider is never going to understand it because they're rule-based games. So yes, there is a requirement for the commentator to actually do that. But I think, given the way that that societies are changing globally, and the fact that if you look at, say, the really brilliant Dota teams, it's rare that you find a team that's kind of located in some rural area. South Korea dominates Dota, and it's a highly industrialized, highly urbanized country. So I think what's happening there is we've got a greater commonality of experience. People are living in cities. They're occupying their free time playing video games, not playing sports. And so the language that's associated with video games makes a lot more kind of sense in that context. And as society kind of becomes more urbanized and more kind of there's less kind of free space, sports I think are going to become less the dominant sort of pastime or kind of activity that you do in your leisure time. And I think things like video games are going to become more dominant. And when that happens, you're going to start to, I think, see sports dominance as the mainstream sort of thing that people watch on TV start to lose its grip, and you'll start to see things like Dota, for example. And we're seeing it. This is why the Dota International is on ESPN, because it's relevant to more people now. You know, and if ESPN wants to retain its audience in the 20s to 30s, they need to start screening that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's inevitable that it will become more mainstream.
And I think also we haven't even nearly reached what is possible, because if we think esports now, we think of all these RTS games, and what I think will happen is that we will see a lot of new and usually impossible sports or races, car races, in a virtual reality setting, because it's not harming the environment. It's not harming any drivers if they have a crash, and you can simulate everything. You could race on the moon. Yeah, have a race under low gravity and with high power cars that go nearly the speed of light. And so I think we will, in the next years or next centuries, explore what's possible with the technology in terms of sports and competitive.
And with the increase in virtual reality technology as well, I mean, there's an incredible capacity there to put the viewer in the position of the person
in the driver's seat
driving.
The only problem
which could be amazing.
I have with that, and this is coming from me purely as a Formula One fan, not as a gaming fan or anything. And whilst I will categorically say I never ever want anyone to get hurt when driving a Formula One car. There was a really bad crash a couple of weeks ago, and it's awful.
I know.
But the problem is that is half of the thrill of the race, of watching a race like that, is that it is dangerous, is that they are going really, really fast. If it's something that I could do myself on my computer at home, I'm not sure I'd watch it.
We will see what the technology comes up with.
I'm not 100% sure, but I would.
Who knows if the next virtual reality suits aren't harmful if you have a crash? So,
but I mean, I can see the benefit of that as well. You know, with reference to Jules Bianchi's crash, that if it was a virtual race, then he would have had that crash and would still be walking around today. So, you know,
probably, but yeah, we will see. I think there is some development. I don't think it's going to replace it anytime soon in our lifetime.
No,
but I will think there will be certainly some development in that direction.
Well, I think the rise of Let's Plays and YouTubes as well is probably a massive, you know, like warning light to these big sport networks. They're thinking, look how many people are just watching someone who's not very good at this game run around and play it. What if we had actually the pros do it? So yeah, I think it could go mainstream.
MLG Pro Minecrafters.
That's me.
All right. Wow.
It's not me.
Okay.
That's not me.
Competitive Minecrafting like UHCs?
Yeah, or like mini games. That'd be great.
The Redstone Olympics.
I would not sign up for
No. I'd be rubbish at that. Well, anyway, guys, moving on to our next topic, and speaking of YouTube, is the idea of YouTube networks and how we all feel about them. I know there's been rumours that PewDiePie, the big, I mean, I don't know how many subscribers he's got, but ridiculous amount of subscribers,
30 million,
is thinking about leaving his network maker and going out on his own. So if somebody that big, who, you know, would probably deserve management, is thinking, oh, this is not for me, you know, what are the pros and cons of a YouTube network?
FG, do you want to take the lead on that?
Okay.
As the biggest channel of the group.
Yeah.
Are any of us partnered with a network? I don't think. No.
I've had offers, but I just don't see the value in it. And that probably is answer to my question. I don't think they are. There's nothing I don't think that a multi-channel network can do for you as a gaming channel that you can't do for yourself. So generally, especially if you're a small channel, there's offers there, you know, to access some materials which might help you put together some content, you know, free audio library, that sort of stuff. There's a suggestion that you'll get greater promotion by having some of your videos shared on the network's main channel, therefore increasing exposure, etc., etc. But if you look at people who are actually small channels partnered with networks, there doesn't seem to be any actual payoff for them. They're losing whatever a small percentage of whatever meager income they're making anyway, and they're not getting a significant increase in views. They're not getting a significant increase in subscribers, apart from perhaps an initial kind of moment where they pick up maybe 60, 70 new subscribers because they signed up to this network. So the network promotes them a little bit and they get a few subs. I don't think that is of great value to a small channel. For people like PewDiePie, there's probably more that they can get out of a network, maybe. But even then, he is a force unto himself. The network needs him more than he needs the network at this point in time. And I think that's, for different reasons, that's the same regardless of how big the channel is.
Oh, yeah.
The networks need channels more than channels need networks. And if you look at something like, I don't know, Machinima or something like that, where they've got 200,000 channels or something like that they're managing, how on earth do you expect that to be of any benefit to you? You go from having a million channels you're competing with to just 200,000 channels you're competing with. That's not really much of an advantage or benefit, I don't think.
No. I mean, I'm with you. I only joined YouTube a couple of months ago, and from straight off, as soon as I signed up, I could upload longer videos than 20 minutes.
Yep.
I could monetize. I could schedule uploads. The YouTube has an audio library that you can use, and then there's Google, which is not hard to use for royalty-free music. And I've had a few, of the emails come through saying, partner, we can offer you this. And I've personally not been able, like you say, to see any kind of benefit that you can't get from managing your own. It actually seems to be a advantage, because they want to take some money off me.
Yeah.
Which I could keep myself.
I was signed with Freedom for 40 days. Simply because it was, my videos all went into review, and the review never went away. Because I sent them the documentation. I used the copyrighted music, but I acquired a license for it. Yep. So in my end slate, I had copyrighted music, and I had the rights to use it in a commercial setting. But I sent all the documentation to YouTube, and they unlocked one video and flagged all others for review and not monetizing. And I don't care about it, but I'm like, if I see that exclamation mark, I get nervous. Maybe it's a little bit of OCD, I don't know. So I signed with with Freedom for 30 days, and there are small benefits to a channel, but they usually they don't outweigh the negatives. The smaller money you get is offset a little bit by no hold off of the payoff. You know, if you make YouTube money, you need to get $100 a month or $100 together to get it paid out. On the networks, you usually don't have that. You get every month what you make directly to your PayPal, minus the 60, 70, 80% that the network takes from you.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it, what you can benefit about it. If you are a large channel and signed with a very small or very focused multi-channel network, like the Yogscast is for broadband, they have like 20 channels, and they all have over 2 million subscribers, and it's a brand of maker studio, but they are only focused on those channels. So PewDiePie is actually signed with them. So PewDiePie and the Yogscast are in the same multi-channel network.
The dog's attacking me.
Yeah, no problem. So the thing here is, you probably get some communication and some help, but I don't think that makes sense for anyone smaller. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you take a group like the Yogscast. So you got the Yogscast, you got Yogscast affiliated channels. The brand is strong, so you gain benefits from that. From being, if you suddenly become Yogscast Genuineparts, that is automatically going to end up with people coming across your channel, regardless of what content you're making, and you'll gain somewhat loyal viewers through that added exposure. and then you can make what you want of that. But you sign with someone like Maker or Polaris or Machinima. You're just one of millions of people that have that splash screen go up at the start of their videos, and it's for the viewer. It's no kind of guarantee of quality of content. There's no loyalty of viewers to, say, the Machinima brand, because there's just millions of channels of varying quality. I mean, I've seen people signed to Machinima who you can't hear their audio when they're speaking through their microphone, and somehow they're partnered with a multi-channel network that it's meant to be kind of providing some sort of benefits from. It's ridiculous. There's no guarantee of quality. Therefore, the brand is effectively worthless. Yeah.
Well, they've just become channel farms, haven't they? I mean, we've all got these emails that go out. They're exactly the same for everyone, and they're now farming that 60p they can get off £1 off of each. Because if you either get really good channels, really good quality, so who are making big money, so you get a big cut of those, or you just get hundreds of thousands of tiny ones, but you make the same money because you take the cut off the little bit of money that they make.
One thing about channels that multi-channel networks that shouldn't be underestimated is if your channel gets a copyright strike and you're partnered, your channel doesn't get the copyright strike, but the network gets it.
Okay.
So you're
but
essentially
as long as you're managing your channel professionally and
of course, but
sourcing royalty-free music and stuff, you shouldn't come up against that problem.
Of course, you shouldn't. But that's one thing you keep in mind, because if you make your livelihood of that, and I don't know, you get copyright strikes because you reviewed a game that was bad, and they file a copyright claim against it, and you get and you get that 3 times, and the channel is gone. So if you make your livelihood of YouTube, I think you might want an extra layer of protection from that. So that's probably something that to consider. But again, not important for small channels, because if I would be disheartened if I get my channel closed down, but I could make another one and be on my way.
I mean, all 3 of us are quite active on Reddit, and I certainly seem to think there's a lot of these benefits, advice, etc., that you can get for free in other places. And certainly on the Let's Play Reddit, I've seen many people sort of say, "Oh, I got a copyright strike. What do I do?" And within 3 or 4 comments, it's like, "This is what you do. This is how it's dealt with," and everything's resolved. And so for me, I'm not ready to be looking at networks. I can ask you guys for help.
Once we have grown enough, we can make our own multi-channel networks.
Well, there you go. We'll just be,
that's exactly right.
The Pretty Beard Bold.
Yeah.
Multi-channel network.
Or the MC Collective multi-channel network.
Yeah, there we go.
That's right.
When we're huge next week.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch out.
It's sure to happen. Bound to happen.
Matter of time. Self-fulfilling prophecy.
What is it they say? What's it called? Noel Edmonds follows this frickin' thing, cosmology or something. If you believe something enough, it will become true.
Yeah.
So just believe, guys. Believe. Yeah, wishful thinking.
It's called insanity. Yeah.
Well, Noel Edmonds is a bit insane. Well, anyway, guys, thanks for that. Next thing I want to talk about, over here in the UK, Ian Livingston, who's one of the co-founders of Games Workshop, the guys that made the tabletop game Warhammer, he's actually applied to the Department of Education for the UK to start up a free school that's the curriculum will be completely based on video games. So using video games in education. And I know that quite a few teachers have used Minecraft. I know that because I play Minecraft and I'm obsessed about everything Minecraft. Like with Redstone to teach electricity circuits and things like that. But I've not seen anyone want to take it so far as to set up a whole school with the ethos being, we learn from gaming. So what do we think about this? Do we think it's a good thing? Do we think it's too focused? Do we think it could go horribly wrong?
I think there is some merit to it from a kind of pedagogical sort of standpoint. So there is certainly copious amounts of research that suggests gaming or games, I shouldn't just say gaming, but games are instrumental in learning, especially at a young age. That humans, in a way, are almost designed socially to play games as a method of learning. And there's a couple of reasons that people argued that that's the case. And provides a safe environment to play out what could be ultimately very real conflicts. So there's this social aspect to gaming where you are provided a safe environment to negotiate and resolve fictional disputes in a meaningful way without any kind of risk. And so a lot of people argue that in primary school, I'm not sure what it's called in the UK or in Austria, but in years say 1 through to 6, that as much learning is done in the playground as is in the classroom, because you go out at lunchtime or at recess time, you figure out who's going to be it, then you chase each other around, you figure out the rules of what happens if there's some sort of dispute about whether a person got tagged or didn't get tagged. And this whole process of negotiating with other people is a learning experience, which is then applied to real situations later in life. But there's a very big difference between that aspect of learning and then trying to understand the periodic table. And that's where I have an issue, because once it gets to the point of students have to learn the periodic table, or they have to learn, what happened in medieval history in Britain from 1200 through to 1500, something like that. Games then become an instructional strategy, which is a method of communicating information so that people will actually learn it, which can be done through, say, a worksheet, or it could be done through a lecture, or it could be done through students putting together a film of their own. They're all means of having people encounter information, process information, and then do something with that information. Games can do that, but I'm not convinced necessarily that games are by definition better at doing that than any other way of doing it. That's the issue that I have. Okay. Or not necessarily the issue, but that's the concern that I have, perhaps.
I mean, maybe it's a case of this sort of thing would work with children that have struggled in a traditional setting in school, have not done well with traditional forms of learning, possibly, because all kids play, well, sorry, not all kids, but the majority of children will have encountered a video game at some point and will probably seem familiar and fun to them. Whereas, for example, a child that has dyslexia might find a worksheet quite threatening and scary and, think, oh my God, I don't know what to do. But if they're put in front of a game that, takes them through the periodic table where they've got to, write down all the different numbers and stuff, that could be fun for them. So I think, I mean, I have, my stepson has Asperger's disorder, and he's an incredibly intelligent young man, but struggles with some of the traditional forms of learning. And with computers, he's brilliant. If you give him times table on a piece of paper, he's sort of like, I don't get it. Put them on the computer, easy peasy. He'll race through them. Yeah. So, I mean, I can see the benefits just from my personal experience with my stepson. But I do, where I do start to worry a little bit about it is when we're sort of talking about GCSEs, 16, 17-year-old. At some point, you're going to have to go to university. And nobody's going to teach you with a video game at university. You're going to be expected to sit in a lecture hall, take notes, research, and then eventually, of course, go into the real world, where you can't do your job through a video game, unfortunately.
Imagine if you could.
That's where I mean, you have all. I think you covered it between you two. I don't think a school just based on video games will not fly. I think video games can be a cool media to show something that you might not understand in hearing, or that don't learn as well in hearing. Like you could do a virtual experience where you join the medieval times and learn how people live there, and that's a thing. But when you say people go into university and don't learn about in video games, as someone who is close to a university, because I work for a university hospital, pupils there are taught through virtual reality operations. There are virtual reality operations where you can see where stuff is located, where you have to cut, and and how stuff looks if it looks different. And that's stuff you cannot learn outside from a computer. So you learn in university with video games, and it will certainly with virtual reality, like the eSports, recall to the eSports. I think we will see improvements there too. And not working in a video game, cars are designed like video games. The virtual crash testing stuff that they do.
I mean, I'm not disputing that there aren't job roles that do.
Yeah.
But this school isn't a school for people that are going to work in the car industry or be a surgeon. It's a general school. I personally don't have any involvement with virtual, bar like AutoCAD, you know, drawing, flipping roads and stuff. But that, you know, I actually have to write things down. I have to write reports and you know, things like that. So unless there's a fundamental complete change in our society about how we do education across the board through every subject, I'm not sure a video game. But then it's got to start somewhere, hasn't it?
It has to start. Every revolution has to start with a little step, I guess.
Yes.
I mean, there's no details on the age group that this school is targeted at, so it's obviously just an idea at the moment, so we can't fully dissect it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, if we were to just say kind of that, let's imagine this is an ordinary school. The only thing that distinguishes it is that rather than be instructed through traditional means, you're instructed through computer games. In that context, I don't think that computer games inherently are going to be better at teaching, and that's really what it comes down to. It doesn't really matter the method that is used to engage a student in learning. What matters is whether or not that learning experience is authentic, where it actually results in a student developing a greater understanding and ultimately at the very pinnacle, a mastery of a particular discipline or idea, or, you know, that's really all that matters. Now, if you can do that through a computer game in certain contexts, by all means. I don't think there's necessarily an assumption that you're teaching them how to play computer games. If it's working properly, you're not doing that. What you're doing is you're teaching them the content that computer games
just using the medium.
Exactly. That's the real art, because realistically, you leave school, you're never going to go into an environment where you're sitting around with 30 other people, all doing the same work and being judged independently. You know, that's the context that students currently work in. So if we say that is not transferable to the real world, then why on earth should we ban computer games because they're not transferable to the real world?
Yeah, no, I get your point. That's fair enough.
So I think in certain contexts, computer games could be a very valuable instructional strategy, but I don't think they're going to go beyond the scope of that, and that they have some magic bullet in them that is more relatable than any other way of learning. It depends on the student, it depends on the context, depends on the subject. And if we look at the data about what actually makes students learn more effectively, there's two dominant factors that computer games simply do not address. One is socioeconomic background. That is going to be the biggest determinant in the success of a student.
Yeah, how do you do your homework if you don't have a computer?
Exactly right. Yeah, where you have to perhaps work because you're supplementing the income of your parents or something like that. That has an enormous impact. Also, you know, socioeconomic background feeds into the educational attainment of your parents, which is another enormous factor. In, you know, if they can't help you with your mathematics because they aren't very good at it themselves, then you're not going to do as well as someone whose parents are mathematicians. You know, and the other factor, and the other second most significant factor in students attaining high standards of educational outcome, is the teacher themselves. So if you are a very good teacher is able to more effectively teach than a poor teacher. I mean, funny that, isn't it? Having computer games in the classroom doesn't really address the quality of the teacher that you have. Yeah, so that's still going to be a factor. Unless computer games have some way of dealing with both of those things more meaningfully than any other way of teaching, I can't see them being necessarily significantly beneficial.
Yeah. I'd prefer to see a school set up as like an alternative school that we use video games. We also use this. We also do that, and it is tailored to the individual student, rather than a school just video games. Because that's like you say, it's not going to suit everyone, is it? Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah, I think that if anything, if it leads to computer games not being ruled out as a method of teaching, then that's a great thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, guys. Well, do we want to take a quick break?
Yeah.
Get a time run dry on the coffee, and then we can come back and chat some more.
Yay.
We'll see you in a bit, guys.
Bye.
Welcome back, everyone. We have refueled with coffee, etc. And we're going to be moving on to our next topic. A bit of fun this week. Something that I always like, which is questions from the audience.
Hey.
So remember, guys, if you do have questions for any of us, either send them to us by Twitter, email. I think I have an email on my YouTube channel page. And we will put them into next week's, and you'll get a shout out. And I'm probably going to try and put a nice little link to your channel or Twitter if you've got one as well.
Also, you can comment on the videos if you have a question.
Yes, as well.
Yes.
Okay, question. This one comes from Heads Design Z, who is a member of the MC Collective.
Not only a member, but the head.
He is a head. Well, we like to think of ourselves as a leaderless society, you know.
Every leaderless society needs someone to pull the strings.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it just leaves it open for someone to come in and take over, really. Yeah.
That's my plan. Don't give it away.
I'm hosting all the servers now.
Z asks, how much money would someone have to pay you in order to use nothing but Internet Explorer for an entire year?
I don't know. How much you got, Z? How much you got? Is it really that bad? See, I haven't used Internet Explorer since like I had a 386 or a 486 when the internet first became a thing. And the only browser that existed was IE. I don't know. Is it terrible? Actually, I think even then I used Netscape Navigator. Actually, so there you go. But
we have it at work,
really
and it's shocking.
Yeah.
It's not a good browser. So yeah.
No.
It's not as bad as it was in version 6. So
I feel like using it just so that it doesn't feel lonely now. Like, I feel a bit sorry for IE now.
Do you know the picture with the browsers where Chrome and Firefox as anthropomorphic beings fight around, and in the background just Internet Explorer sitting there eating glue?
Oh.
That's an absolute. That's a favorite picture of mine because, you know,
Wow.
two browsers,
Oh.
Internet Explorer with a little helmet on and eating glue.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. Thanks, Z. Way to put a downer on the whole podcast.
Yeah.
So nobody's actually willing to come up with a monetary amount.
Okay, I'd say if you give me for every month $1,000, $12,000 US dollars, I would do it because I can live with it. I can use it if I have to. I certainly wouldn't enjoy it, but for $1,000 a month, I would say, yeah, screw it.
You'd have to give me the money that I earn at work, because if I had to actually use IE at work, I'd quit my job. So you'd have to pay me enough because I wouldn't get anything done.
I'll do it for free, just because I feel sorry for it.
Aww.
Well, you have now issued a challenge. You've been issued a challenge.
Damn.
Next up, a question from Genuineparts to Teeggie, which is, why are you so cool? I already answered it, but I'll answer it again. It's because I'm Batman.
Batman.
There you have it.
You keep that secret, though, because not a lot of people know.
So if you're the Joker watching, please end the video 3 minutes ago.
Did you know there you go.
And next up, another question from Hez Design C, which, I mean, this question is going to have to go to the boys, really, because I can't answer it, which is your favourite pig byproduct.
Favorite pig byproduct? Wow. See, I used to be a vegetarian, just like yourself, and then I fell off the wagon.
Dark side.
Yeah. I don't know. To be honest, is it fine to say that I'm not really that impressed by pork products?
Oh my God.
You know, like bacon doesn't really do that much for me. You know, I'm sorry, internet. I'm sorry, but I'm just calling it like I see it.
This podcast is just ruined now. Nobody will ever watch us again.
Save us, quick! Save us, GP.
Well, it's absolutely. I like pigs in general.
I like live pigs.
You can use everything of a pig, I think. You can use the skin, you can use the meat, you can use the innards for dog food, and the snouts and the ears get dog food. I think pigs are the most useful animals there are. My most bacon.
Bacon.
Bacon. There you have it,
I'll-
bacon.
I'll just-
Internet love me. I said bacon.
I'll ask my assistant down here what his favourite pig.
Yeah, please
Zach,
do.
Zach, what's your favourite pig product? He says chewy sticks,
Oh,
Chewy sticks.
It's-
which I think is like pig rawhide.
I think
okay.
it's just a part of the pig. It's
Yeah.
chewy steak.
It's a chewy. It's a
Any
chewy pig.
part.
That's the chewy
the
sticks
parts.
part of the pig.
Yeah. In pig
Yeah.
anatomy, everyone learns about the chewy stick bit.
Every butcher will know what we're talking about. The chewy stick part.
Veterinary school.
Yeah.
It's all about the chewy
That's
bit.
the chewy
He
stick
needs a
part
chewy
of
bit
the pig.
transplant. You got to go down to the shops and get a packet of chewy sticks and just start shoving them in.
Oh man. And I've saved my favourite question till last, which comes from Alec4 again, which was, if you could make any game, what would it be and why?
Any game. Well, see, a friend and I were discussing a game that that we will claim all intellectual property for. So if you turn this into a thing, then we're gonna come after you. But basically, we want to make a B grade movie simulator game where you were a B grade movie producer whose aim
Let
it
me
was
take
to
notes.
whose aim it was to make basically the best B grade movie you could, not the best movie you could, but
Okay.
the most cliched, trope driven B grade film that you could possibly do. And we're going to have like all these well-known B grade actors, except with their names slightly changed. So instead of Bruce Campbell, it'd be Bruce Bramble and stuff like that would come in, and you could employ them. But it was really,
That's
very
cool.
thoroughly developed idea, that one, which, given our complete inability to write any form of computer code, we would just never do. But there you go.
But it's
That's-
still
that-
yours.
I have a
It's
name
still
for it.
ours.
I have a name for
What's
it.
that?
Alan Smithy Simulator. For
Yeah,
2014.
okay.
Because Alan
Yeah.
Smithy is the name producers use when they don't want to be associated with a movie that's not good.
Oh, I
okay.
never knew that.
Yeah,
The more you know.
Mm.
yeah. Okay.
Go on then,
Right,
Genuine.
what
What's your your
Oh,
game?
sorry. FG did want to say something. You...
No, I was just going to see what yours was.
Oh, well, I actually dreamt about the story of a game once, and I wrote it down, and I have it in the backhand. If I ever have time and means and artists to do the thing, I would definitely make that game. It's a game where, true to an accident, you get sent back in time with a device, and you get to experience various time scales on the planet. So you could go back to the dinosaurs, and the device shows you where the next rip in time is, and you can go to the next. Your target. It's an action adventure. Your target is to go back to your time,
Okay.
and so you have to find your way. And in the beginning, you would be in danger because you have no weapons and everything. It would just be like Amnesia, where you have to run from dinosaurs and hide in the next cave where the rip is. And then you have to travel the time epochs. So go to the future, for example, and get a weapon there, for example. And then suddenly you go back to the dinosaurs, and now you can fight them. And there is a conclusion to the game, and I'm just spoiling it now because I don't know if it ever gets made. You go back in time and get back to your time, but you drop the device in the lab, and that's what caused the rip in the first place.
Oh.
My
So-
God. So it just goes round and round and round.
Yeah. Yeah, mind
Yeah.
blown. I know it's fantastic. So don't steal. It's original content. Don't mind. Don't steal.
It does sound a little bit like Sliders.
Yeah,
Remember
it's,
Sliders? From
Yeah,
back in the day?
blimey.
But they weren't traveling time. They were doing alternate
Yeah,
dimensions.
it's dimensions,
Yeah.
isn't it?
So it's all right.
Yeah.
but that would be the sequel then, because if it was successfully, we had to milk the IP.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I'm sure you could get the people from Sliders pretty cheap to do voiceover work as well.
I think you get them very
Don't imagine
cheap.
they've got a lot of work at the moment. Yeah.
Sorry, anyone from Sliders is watching this.
Yeah, our core audience.
So, Teeggie, what would your game be?
Well, obviously, I lack any imagination whatsoever, so it would probably be something.
Minecraft 2.
Well, yeah, no. It would have to combine the things that I nerd out about. So it would have to include maths, roads, the colour pink, Terry Pratchett, and maybe a bit of like post-apocalyptic futuristic crap.
Post-apocalyptic pink road simulator.
Brilliant. That's it. That's the game. Oh wait,
Where your joke?
Get onto it, internet. Get
Throw in a
onto it.
unicorn,
I want
and
to
we're
see
done.
this game.
Yeah. You're charged with laying a road from point A to point B in a world consumed by a wasteland full of zombies after an apocalypse, and the road must be pink.
Yes.
Not sure why at that point, but yeah.
Because
the
it's for robots.
radioactive stuff has turned all the bitumen pink.
No, much
Yeah.
better. Because robots are much easier to learn the color pink than any other color.
Okay, yeah.
Not
Yeah.
exactly different from the background, because it will be all grayish, brownish,
Yeah.
like every post-apocalyptic game.
And yeah, you want it to be like standing out so people know
Yeah.
where to walk.
It's-
so they don't
it's the
walk
road.
in the
If
radioactive
Yeah.
slime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. If somebody could get that
Amazing.
made by next week, I'll
So
play
you-
it and put it on my channel.
You have a week to make 3 games now. So
Yeah.
contact us for the pricing, for the ideas, and we will definitely make you a nice offer.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Exactly.
Okay, guys. Well, moving on. Last but not least, just a quick roundup of what's been going on your channel this week, what you've been watching. Anyone new that you want to point us in the direction of?
Well, this week on our channel, Wizzy, the other illustrious member of We Played This, or one of the other illustrious members, I should say, has been playing The Evil Within, and I actually, because I had no idea what he was doing, and I actually laughed out loud quite a lot watching his video and the ridiculousness that he got up to, and the ridiculous overacting that you get to see in the video as well. Aside from that, I don't think I've been watching anyone new this week. I think just see, I'm going to have to do what GP did. I'm going to have to come up with 2 for next week. I think 2 new people to watch for next week. That's all right. I'll search the interwebs and see what I can come up with.
Cool coolies. And you, Genuine?
New on my channel this week. It was the first week again with 5 videos a week, or 5 videos a weekday. Also, Mod Sauce went up. The first MC Collective Mod Sauce episode went up. And there are plans to have more content for you guys to watch.
Great.
Because we can only go up from 5 videos a week now.
Great.
As for what I have been watching, I have to take my bailout. Also, again, I have to come up with 2 videos. I really didn't watch a lot of new content. I don't think I did.
Yeah.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
Too
Well,
busy. We're
I
too
won't
busy.
let down the team.
Please,
I-
please do.
Well, I'll half let you down because there's not been a lot new on my channel this week because I was poorly the week before, so I didn't record anything. But I'm catching up now. I'm back in the saddle. But for new channels, my own dear friend, Mrs. Blockington, has finally decided to start recording. And she's put up 2 episodes of Sims 4 now. And the drama that woman has created in her Sims life is insane. So yeah, if you want to watch Sims cheat on each other and not want to feed their babies and just be generally horrible people, then go and check out Mrs. Blockington.
I do want to see that. I really do.
That sounds like some reality TV show.
That's what I said. I was
Yeah.
like, my God, this is like
Yeah.
watching Jeremy Kyle. This is crazy. But yeah, go check it
Excellent.
out. Really good.
Will do.
So guys, I think that's going to be it from us. Me, the pretty, FG, the bid, and Genuine, the bold. We will see you next time out. Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.